May I help you, sir?
Lonely or the insomnia?
Oh yeah. Bulkhead.
If you are a traveler and you spend most of your travel hours on air, you may at some point wonder what secrets the flight attendants are hiding from you. From their body movements to eye contact, there are many things flight attendants don't want you to know. Number 20. You can ask for more food till you're satisfied. To begin the countdown, we will talk about airplane food. Did you know that you can actually ask for as much food as you want on an airplane? If you are not one of those who can afford to fly first class, then you don't really have much choice but to eat whatever food that is provided on the plane.
Hi, Mr. Choi. Would you like to try our afternoon tea set?
But whether or not you are in first class, you can always ask for more airplane food if you want. This is something you may not have known, and the flight attendants would rather not tell you. They will not tell you because they know that every extra request for food means more work for them. You can ask for food at will because airplane food has a limited shelf life. Since it is pre-made when it is supplied, a large portion of it is later thrown away, which is a waste. As a result, travelers are free to eat as much as they want. It's essentially an all-you-can-eat buffet, so don't be afraid to ask a flight attendant for more food when next you're on board. Number 19. Don't be in a rush to board. Be the last aboard. It is a recurring experience to see passengers rushing to board an aircraft as quickly as possible. If you travel a lot, chances are that you may have done it too. However, flight attendants know that being the last to board is actually much better, but they will never tell you. The benefit of boarding last is the fact that you get to choose from any open seats available. If you board last, you and your partner can travel and be seated together if there are any open seats. Once the doors have closed behind all passengers, the last passenger to board the aircraft has the liberty to sit anywhere, regardless of where he/she chooses to sit. This is because you won't be occupying anyone else's seat. So, the next time you board a plane, ensure you take your time. Another advantage of boarding last is that since the passengers in front of you have already stowed their carry-on luggage in the overhead compartments, you'll have more room to move around. Therefore, remember to board last the next time you fly. You'll be happy that you did. Number 18. There's no true privacy in the restroom. Have you ever used an airline restroom? Well, naturally, everyone expects some sort of privacy in the restroom. This is because conventional restrooms are made in such a way that whoever is inside has control over the lock. However, privacy is only a mirage when traveling by plane. There is one fact about airline bathrooms that you probably did not know, and it has to do with the door that can be unlocked from the outside. The airplane attendants know this, but will never tell you. You are mistaken if you believe that closing the toilet door from the inside will prevent anyone from entering. That's because restroom doors on airplanes can be opened from the outside. Under the no smoking sign on the door, there is an exterior unlock mechanism. Although it may seem a little unsettling that a flight attendant could perhaps open the door while you're using the restroom, it is done for safety. For instance, when a passenger passes out in the restroom, or if a hijacker of a plane locks themselves inside, the door can be unlocked by flipping up the no smoking sign on the front door. Just be mindful not to use this to open the door while someone else is doing it. That is not a good thing to do. Number 17. Flight attendants check fitness. Body fitness is not only applicable to planes. Generally speaking, medical doctors always advise that you do a periodic checkup for your body. Just like your doctor would observe some changes in your body, flight attendants are also trained to observe your body and check for fitness. The best part? They do this without your knowledge. When flight attendants check you for fitness, it does not necessarily mean you're sick. It could be that they are looking out for people with good physiques. One flight attendant said she always looks for able-bodied passengers who can assist with security problems in case someone tries to hijack the plane or there is any minor issue or emergency evacuation. This will be someone traveling alone and in comfortable street clothing. Thankfully, airplane emergencies are not common. However, in a time of crisis, attendants have to know who to turn to. That's why they'll discreetly examine your body when you step on a plane. They will then mentally label you as either fit and equal to the task or unfit. Peradventure, you want to help in case of emergencies. Here are some tips to make yourself look fit for a flight attendant. You should dress in comfortable street clothing that is not too baggy or too tight. You should avoid wearing heavy jewelry or accessories that could get in the way during an emergency. You should stand up straight and walk with confidence, and you should make eye contact with the flight attendant and smile. Number 16. Secret codes for communication. One of the commonest experiences on an airplane is hearing those loud airplane chimes when seated in an aircraft. Some people mistakenly think that this is the airline's jingle. However, that is not the case. The chimes you hear while aboard an aircraft is actually a code that the flight attendants use to communicate. Humans are engineered to communicate in our everyday lives, and that's how we get along. Interestingly, not only humans communicate. Animals also have and employ different mechanisms to communicate in their own way. Similarly, flight staff employs a system of bells and chimes to discreetly communicate with one another around the cabin. These communication techniques are unknown to the passengers. These aircraft chimes are so loud, ensuring that every member of the crew can hear them. However, their loudness is well regulated to not become noise or become a form of disturbance to the passengers. Now, these chimes differ between airlines. However, a single chime typically denotes a routine sound. For instance, the pilot might instruct the flight attendants to verify the number of snacks still available or to check the seat belts. If there are 2 dings, it can indicate more serious turbulence. And another sound you might not be familiar with is 3 consecutive dings or continuous dings. When you hear any of these, especially a continuous ding, it typically denotes an emergency of some sort or a complete change of course. No one wishes to hear the last one because continuous ding is a sign of real serious trouble. Number 15. Flight attendants love talkative and friendly people. Talkativeness is a big topic for discussion. While some people don't mind meeting and chatting with new people and even entertaining them with jokes, others see it as something entirely unnecessary. However, you may become a friend of the flight attendants if you know how to engage people in conversations. Although they will never ask you to become talkative, flight attendants will really notice if you're chatty. One flight attendant for American Airlines says that when she says hello to a passenger and if they respond back, she'll think that that person is really nice. She will then make sure to help them with anything they need. And if there are any spare seats in first class, maybe she'll even bump them up. So when you get on a plane, it really does pay to be nice to the flight attendants. From interviews with flight attendants, we have come to learn that there are various ways in which you can grab any attendant's attention. If you want to become the favorite of flight attendants, here are some tips for being chatty with flight attendants. First, respond politely to their greeting. Try to introduce yourself and say hello. Next, you can ask them how they're doing and how their day is going, and be genuinely interested in their answers. Furthermore, you can offer to help them with anything they need. Lastly, do not forget to thank them for their help and for making your flight enjoyable. By following these simple to-do tips, you can make a good impression on the flight attendants and increase your chances of getting upgraded or receiving other special treatment. Number 14. Flight attendants. Watch whether you're nervous. Every one of us has been nervous before at some point in our lives. Maybe you found yourself in a pretty ugly situation, or you're just simply scared of something. Regardless, it is important to know that flight attendants are trained to look for signs of nervousness in passengers before boarding a plane. This is not because they are suspicious of passengers, but because they want to make sure everyone is comfortable on the plane. It is absolutely normal to be nervous on your first flight. So, whether you are scared of heights or you just don't feel comfortable in the plane, remember that the flight attendants are watching. Passengers who are nervous could be gazing at a book, frantically looking around, or nervously playing with a headphone cord. These are all signs that the passenger may have a fear of flying, and the flight attendant may want to offer them special assistance or reassurance. In some cases, flight attendants may also check for nervous passengers because they are concerned about the safety of the flight. If a passenger is acting suspiciously, the flight attendant may report them to the pilot or security. So as long as you are not hiding anything, you don't have to worry if you're nervous. Number 13. Looking straight in. For some people and cultures, it is wrong or probably rude to look people straight in the eyes. However, the case is different for flight attendants. One Southwest Airlines flight attendant said that she always notices if people make eye contact with her. She said that she is not suspicious when people do, but she does investigate those who don't. According to her, those who don't look at her are either scared of flying, or they are feeling nervous for some reason, or maybe they are just shy or dealing with a personal issue. It is something flight attendants won't tell you outright, but a part of their job is making sure everyone on the plane is having a comfortable time. Also, if someone greets them in a really nice way with a smile and eye contact, they are more likely to be upgraded to first class. This sometimes happens if there are any first-class seats still available. In addition to making eye contact, there are other things that passengers can do to make a good impression on flight attendants. These include being polite and respectful, following the flight attendant's instructions, and keeping their belongings stowed away during takeoff and landing. By following these simple tips, passengers can help ensure that they have a safe and enjoyable flight. Number 12. Airplanes have ashtrays. Smoking has been prohibited on flights since the 1990s, which is very widely known. However, only a few people know why it was banned. Many people believe that this is being done to ensure fire safety on board a plane or perhaps to improve the travel experience for passengers. However, this is untrue. Actually, it's because of the way heavy cigarette smoke fuels the contamination of airplane fans. The contaminated fans in turn required them to spend money on replacements more frequently. Therefore, smoking aboard aircraft became outlawed. But do you know airplanes still have ashtrays? Authorities understand that even though cigarettes are banned on airplanes, it is possible that some people still smoke on board. Some people may claim to forget about the ban on cigarettes and go ahead with smoking on board, while others would do it because of addiction. You can actually utilize the ashtrays if you light a cigarette. Yes, ashtrays are still used in the construction of modern airplanes. You can see it by entering the bathroom on the airplane. Should you light a cigarette in an airplane, ensure you do not place the cigarettes in a garbage container. It is preferable to leave them out in an ashtray. So make use of the toilet ashtray if you find your mind wandering or forget that smoking is prohibited in aircraft. Number 11. Passengers who are under the weather. One critical check that every flight attendant does on everyone on the plane is to make sure that they are fit to fly. This is important because it can be very difficult to tackle a medical emergency once the doors are shut and the plane is in the sky. Flight attendants are trained in first aid. However, they do not have complex medical training. This is why there is the catchphrase, "Is there a doctor on board?" During boarding, many flight attendants check to make sure that no one is sick. This is important because airports are often full of people who are coming from all over the world. An airport is a place where different people from different parts of the world visit in order to travel to various parts of the world. For instance, when the pandemic struck the entire globe and everyone felt unsafe, airports and other terminals had to improve their security measures. At a time when coronavirus had infected over 80,000 people, flight attendants had to keep an eye on passengers to see who would exhibit any signs of unwellness. It is important for flight attendants to check to see if passengers are fit to fly because flight attendants are responsible for the safety of all passengers on board the plane. If a passenger is not fit to fly, they could pose a risk to themselves and other passengers. Flight attendants are trained to recognize signs of illness and to take appropriate action. By checking to see if passengers are fit to fly, flight attendants can help to prevent medical emergencies on board the plane. Number 10. Bulkhead seats are not intended for everybody. Everybody wants to be comfortable. In fact, when you board a plane, the first thing you'll probably look out for is the most comfortable space for you. But you see those bulkhead seats. They're not meant for everyone. If they had their way, flight attendants would advise you to avoid these seats at all costs, despite the fact that many passengers hurry to grab them when they board an aircraft. Considering they are slightly larger and safer to use with a baby carrier, people with babies are typically the ones that should select the bulkhead seats. This implies that if you rush to seat on one of those and a baby is placed in any of these seats right beside you, you will be forced to endure hours of non-stop screams. This is just another reason to board last to ensure you are not seated next to a baby so you can avoid the trouble of sitting with babies that'll disturb you. Number 9. Flight attendants. Check for pregnant passengers. Generally, pregnant women are treated specially and differently from other people. This special treatment is a result of what they carry in their womb. Because of this same reason, pregnant women are prohibited from doing some things. In fact, once a woman gets pregnant, her activeness level begins to drop dramatically. As a result, flight attendants are often asked to confirm whether or not a passenger is pregnant. This is because there are certain risks associated with flying for pregnant women, and it is important to make sure that they are aware of these risks before they board the plane. Pregnant women are typically required to carry a note from their doctor stating that they are fit to fly after a certain number of weeks. This is because flying can increase the risk of certain complications, such as deep vein thrombosis and preterm labor. It is important to note that there is typically at least one medical professional on board every flight. This means that if there are any complications during pregnancy, there will be someone on hand to help. However, if you're pregnant, do not rely on the fact that there would be at least one medical personnel on board. Overall, it is important for flight attendants to confirm whether or not a passenger is pregnant before they board the plane. So if you naturally have a big stomach, don't be surprised if you have one of the attendants looking at you. This is to ensure that the passenger is aware of the risks associated with flying and that there is someone on hand to help if there are any complications. Number 8. They check for contraband. It is customary that airports conduct thorough inspections to ensure that no one is smuggling contraband in. But did you know that sometimes the TSA fails to prevent individuals from transporting illegal substances, explosives, or firearms? This was discovered as a result of a Department of Homeland Security investigation. This indicates that there is still a considerable possibility that someone may bring something prohibited onto a flight. For instance, it's very common for people to sneak their cherished pets into airplanes, as well as other prohibited items. Because items like guns or illicit substances can jeopardize the safety and well-being of the trip, flight attendants consistently ensure they are aware of what you are bringing into the aircraft. They won't search your baggage, but if they have suspicions about you, they might assist you with your bags, and as they do so, they might peek inside. Additionally, they'll look for lumps beneath your coat or even under your jacket to determine whether you're bringing in cash or prohibited items. If they notice something improper, they will alert ground staff and you will be removed from the aircraft and arrested. Number 7. Don't get drunk. It is not advisable to get intoxicated in an airport bar before a flight. Flight attendants are trained to identify drunk or unruly passengers and will ask you to leave the plane if you are acting erratically or are significantly intoxicated. They also receive training in rudimentary taekwondo techniques in the event that there is any aggression, hostility, or violence in the sky. It is okay to consume a couple of beers before your flight and then nod off during the flight. However, if you board the plane shouting, swearing, and threatening to assault other passengers, you will be in serious trouble. Here are some additional tips for staying safe on a flight. Arrive at the airport early so you have time to relax and sober up before your flight. Drink plenty of water throughout the flight to stay hydrated. Avoid alcohol and caffeine, which can dehydrate you and make you feel more anxious. If you feel like you are going to be sick, tell a flight attendant immediately. If you see someone acting erratically or threatening other passengers, notify a flight attendant immediately. Do this, and you'd be a friend of attendants. Number 6. Flight attendants check for dangerous jewelry. Jewelry is meant for adornment and beautification. But did you know one of the first things air attendants notice is your jewelry, especially hanging jewelry and clothing, which could be a safety concern in the airport. They can also tell where most passengers are heading by the way they're dressed. When you step onto a plane, they'll see if your clothing is flammable. They'll also check if you have any earrings that could tear a safety slide if you were to evacuate the plane. Let me explain some additional things that flight attendants may notice about your jewelry. The size and shape of the jewelry, that is, large or dangling earrings, for example, could be a safety hazard if they get caught on something during a flight. Also, the value of the jewelry matters a lot. So don't be too surprised if your jewelry catches the attention of any of the flight attendants the next time you board a plane. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. Now look at this photo. What do you think is going on here? We don't know for sure if these people should be where they are at the moment. Regardless, there's definitely more to this than we can see. But what do you think? Let's hear your thoughts in the comment section. Number 5. They get frustration. Like you and I, have you ever become incredibly frustrated that you transferred your aggression to a flight attendant because your flight was delayed? If such is the case, you should be aware that they also share your frustration, but they will never say it to you. You must understand that before the plane's doors are closed, flight attendants are not compensated. Most flight attendants are paid hourly and do not receive their first payment until the plane's doors are closed. When the doors are opened, their pay likewise stops. In other words, if you're frustrated that you can't get off the plane when you arrive at your location, know that they are too. Flight attendants are not paid for the time they spend boarding the aircraft, getting it ready for takeoff, or performing safety checks. All airlines are not like this. For instance, certain airlines in Europe do employ a pay structure. However, flight attendants get paid hourly by several U.S. airlines. So don't blame the flight attendants if your jet is running late or delayed. They aren't even being paid for their attendance. In addition to not receiving compensation for all of their job, flight attendants experience a great deal of stress and worry. They must be ready for everything because they are in charge of ensuring the security of the people on their aircraft. They must also manage challenging passengers and ensure that everyone is abiding by the laws. So, remember to treat the flight attendants nicely the next time your trip is canceled or delayed. They are not to blame for the delay, they are simply performing their duties. Number 4. Baby delivery. Pregnant women are typically urged by doctors not to fly. Regardless, infants are born occasionally. This happens when babies come early or when people choose to disregard the doctor's advice. In a sense, flight attendants are trained to do just about anything, which is why we must commend them. Contrary to popular belief, they are not merely servers in the sky. Among the many things they are good at, firefighting and baby delivery skills are taught to them. They can also diagnose illnesses and damaged limbs, stop nosebleeds, perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and much more. Flight attendants are educated in child delivery, so if your water breaks at 30,000 feet, do not worry. According to statistics, 16 infants are delivered on airplanes each year. Number 3. Soda can. Ever notice how, whenever you order a soda on an airplane, it is typically poured into a glass that is considerably smaller than the soda can? This is so that they can save money, which is what the flight attendants are told to do. However, flight attendants won't tell you this. However, if you merely request the entire can, they will almost always oblige. You paid for the flight. Thus, you should get a full can of what you want. However, to get what you want on a flight, you must be respectful and courteous, be confident and assertive while you keep in mind that you have rights as the customer. Number 2. Dimming lights. Have you ever questioned why an airplane's lights suddenly get dim? Some individuals see it as a signal to sleep, but the attendant isn't particularly concerned with whether you're asleep or not. The lights always get reduced to get your eyes ready for a possible evacuation. When you're flying, your eyes are often accustomed to darkness. This implies that your eyes won't be ready to see in the bright light if anything goes wrong throughout takeoff or landing. Your eyes will have time to acclimate to the new light if the lights have been dimmed, though, and you'll eventually be prepared to see clearer in an emergency. It's essential to understand that turning down the lights doesn't necessarily signal an evacuation. Statistically speaking, the majority of crises and evacuations take place between takeoff and landing. The lighting is therefore reduced at those times. It's an excellent precaution to be ready for an unexpected landing if you notice the lights dim mid-turbulence. Number 1. Flight attendants can get water on board. It is important that every passenger goes through checks at the airport, and crew members are no exception. Crew members undergo thorough background checks. However, they are permitted to flash a badge and enter via a side door without going through the Transportation Security Administration. Unfortunately, on international flights at airports abroad, you don't always get to evade the Transportation Security Administration. Sometimes flight attendants can easily get through security with frozen water bottles. Freezing the water is the secret. Instead of solids, the Transportation Security Administration is searching for liquids. Ice can pass through without a problem, according to the Transportation Security Administration website. Just watch out that the bottles don't melt as they pass through the conveyor belt. So why buy a bottle of water when you can bring one of your own in for free and save some dollars? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.